Hey, how's it going, everyone? One of the tools that I use a lot when I am testing batteries, if you've seen my test setup, are inverters. So I accidentally fell down the Temu well of death the other day and saw them advertising a 5,000 watt inverter for like 210 bucks. And that's really low based on what I've always paid. You can go to Harbor Freight and get one, the cheapest I know of, for about $400, a Jupiter. So I'm curious if this is actually a 5,000 watt burst or if it is an actual 10,000 burst, 5,000 watt steady. So I figured I'd make a video and we will test it. This is an inverter that I got from Temu that claims 5,000 watts. I haven't opened it. I'm gonna film the opening and then we will test it and see if it can really produce 5,000 watts. First off, the packaging. It is well packaged. It's in a very sturdy box. So, I mean, kudos to that. Let's go ahead and get this opened up.
Okay, so first off here we have the documentation, which it's pretty standard. You would expect that to be included. Next, it looks like we have some extension cable, likely to hook up the power and ground. This seems pretty small for 5,000 watts. I'm figuring close to 500 amps will be pulled in order to, actually push this if it can do what it says. So, okay, so this makes it a little bit better. They did include dual runs, but again, this is pretty small, so I'm not sure if I will actually use this. I'm probably going to use my own wiring during the testing just to make sure that, I'm not bottlenecking it at the wires. This is a pretty cool feature that's not even a part of my more expensive inverters. Looks like it does have a remote on-off. Pretty slick touch there, and it also included a bag of 40 amp fuses. Let me see if I can get one of these in focus here. So right from the start, it's definitely heavier than I expected this to be. So it feels pretty solid. The packaging, it got here okay, which also got here pretty quick actually. I think about a week. So I was impressed with the shipping speed. It does say 5,000 watts. A lot of the inverters, especially cheaper inverters, will list their wattage and their maximum wattage and kind of advertise towards the maximum wattage, similar to the way, old school amplifiers did with drastic overratings. So this one just says 5,000 watts. You can see that here. It does have 6 plugs as opposed to 4 like my more expensive inverters, and dual power and ground inputs as well. For the load test, I do have 4 heat guns hooked up. They are 1,500 watts each. I don't think they actually do 1,500 watts. They are kind of low in heat guns, and I did end up changing the wiring and not using the wiring that came with it, so I'm using some 4.0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn them on now. And right away, this screen is just really cool. It shows you the input voltage, output voltage, and the wattage. And it does look like it is steadily supplying over 5,000 watts, so we'll let it go for a bit to make sure that it doesn't drastically fall, and that's not just a peak rating, but it looks like it's holding steady at over the rated values. So I'm impressed. I wasn't sure what I would be getting, but I mean, this looks like it's actually doing the 5,000 watts, no problem. So I just got this today, but overall, I will review my first impressions and initial thoughts on this inverter. It's definitely heavier than I was expecting, and it feels very well built, so no complaints there. It does include 6 plugs versus 4. Granted, we only need 4 to really push these inverters to their max, but if you're using them for another use, that's always a bonus to have the additional options for outputs. The remote control is also a nice touch that did not come with my previous inverters, to be able to remotely turn it on and off without manually flipping the switch. And it does have a very nice display screen that shows the input voltage, output voltage, and the wattage, which my other inverters also don't show. They just have kind of a little LED bar that gives you a general idea of the performance. The biggest surprise is that it handily put out well over 5,000 watts. Didn't seem to be struggling at all. I was running at full tilt like I test my other inverters and do some of my load tests. And as an added bonus, I was able to turn this inverter on at 15.7 volts, which actually will make my other inverters go into a protect mode and just start beeping and not provide power. So I'm not sure how high I can have the voltage on this yet, but it's definitely higher than the Harbor Freight Jupiters. The only negative thing that I actually have to say from my first impressions are that the included wiring seems very suspicious to me. It seems way too small to handle 500 watt or 500 amps of current. So if you do get this, I would recommend using your own wire. I'm using 4/0 dual runs to each post. But first impressions are, if this thing lasts, this is a steal. So by far the best deal I've ever gotten on an inverter, and I'm actually super impressed at the performance and how everything seems so far. So if anything goes awry, I will make another video explaining it. But for now, I think this is a killer deal. If you have any questions, just let me know.